3 days after his father's funeral, Daniel Mercer opened a steel safe that had been locked for more than 30 years. He expected cash, property papers, or maybe a second will. Instead, he found a photograph with part of the image cut away, dozens of letters returned unopened, a wooden car labeled for a child no one in the family had heard of, and a note in his father's handwriting. It contained 2 words: find him. By the time Daniel learned who him was, he had already spent days believing his father was a liar. Daniel's father, Robert, had always been difficult to read. He was dependable, quiet, and practical. He worked as an electrician, repaired everything instead of replacing it, and rarely spoke about his past. Whenever anyone asked about the large safe behind his garage workbench, Robert gave the same answer: old paperwork. Nobody pushed him. Then Robert died from cancer at 72. While clearing the house, Daniel found a card taped beneath his father's desk. 6 numbers were written on it. His mother looked toward the garage. That has to be the combination. Opening the safe felt less like sorting property and more like entering a room Robert had deliberately kept locked. Daniel entered the numbers. The lock clicked on the second attempt. There was no money inside, no jewelry, no hidden fortune. There was an envelope addressed to Daniel, a notebook, returned letters tied with string, a photograph, a brass key marked 214, and a wooden car wrapped in yellowed paper. A label read, "For Michael's 3rd birthday." Daniel had no idea who Michael was. Then he picked up the photograph. It showed Robert in his early 20s beside a woman Daniel had never seen before. They stood outside a small white house. Robert was looking toward the missing edge of the picture. Someone had cut away the entire right side with scissors. On the back was a date from 1975. Beneath it, Robert had written, "Find him." Daniel's mother studied the woman's face. "I've never seen her before." Robert had been married to her for 43 years. That answer changed the room. Daniel opened the envelope. The first line read, "If you are reading this, I am already gone. Before you judge me, you need to know what really happened." Robert wrote that before he met Daniel's mother, there had been someone else. Her name was Elaine Porter. They met in 1971, when Robert was 19. A year later, Elaine told him she was pregnant. They planned to marry. But then Robert was drafted into the Army. He wrote to Elaine almost every week. At first, she replied. Then, the letters stopped. When Robert returned, Elaine's family was gone. The house had been sold. Neighbors said they had moved out of state. Nobody knew where. At first, Daniel thought the secret was obvious. His father had another child, a child he had abandoned. The thought made him sick. Robert had spent Daniel's life talking about responsibility. He criticized men who walked away from their families. He once told Daniel that a father's first job was simply to stay. Now the safe appeared to prove he had done the opposite. For the first time, Daniel felt ashamed of him, but then he untied the letters. Every envelope had been sent by Robert. Some went to Elaine in the 1970s. Others had been mailed years later to addresses in Ohio, Pennsylvania, and West Virginia. Everyone had been returned. No such address. Unable to forward, recipient unknown. Then Daniel opened the notebook. It was not a diary. It was a search record. Names, phone numbers, old maps, churches, hospitals, county offices, former neighbors, private investigators. The entries stretched across decades: 1978, 1979, 1980, 1981, 1982, 1983. Robert had never stopped looking. On one page, Daniel found the same date written once for every year. April 14th. Each date had a check mark beside it. Michael's birthday. Robert had remembered everyone. He had simply never been there for any of them. Daniel's mother sat beside the workbench. 43 years, she whispered. He carried this for 43 years. She was hurt by the secret, but she no longer saw the safe as evidence of betrayal. She saw it as evidence of guilt. The brass key was the only thing Daniel still could not explain. Number 214. 2 days later, he found the answer in an old bank statement. Robert had rented safe deposit box 214. Inside were a sealed letter addressed to Michael Reed, a receipt from a private investigator, and a second photograph. It was the complete version of the picture from the garage. The missing section showed a little boy standing beside Elaine. Robert had not been looking at the ground. He had been looking at the child. On the back, Robert had written, "Michael, spring 1975, the only day I got to hold him." That changed everything again. Robert had found Michael once, then lost him a second time. The notebook explained how. After nearly 2 years of searching, Robert traced Elaine to Pennsylvania through a former co-worker. Elaine agreed to meet him outside her home. She told him she believed he had stopped writing. Robert insisted he had not. For one afternoon, she allowed him to meet Michael. Elaine's sister took the photograph, but Elaine was engaged to Thomas Reed. Her parents wanted Robert gone, and Robert had no money, no lawyer, and no idea what rights he had. He left believing he could return later. Within weeks, the family moved again. This time, he found no address. The real problem was not that Robert had never tried. It was that when he finally had one chance, he was too young and frightened to fight for it. The investigator's receipt was dated 18 months before Robert died. Daniel called the number. The investigator remembered Robert immediately. "I found him," he said. Michael Porter had become Michael Reed after Elaine married Thomas. He lived in Pennsylvania, less than 4 hours away. For 1 second, Daniel felt relieved. Then the investigator added something that made no sense. Robert never contacted him. Why not? There was a pause. 3 days after I gave him the address, he was diagnosed with cancer. Robert had been told he might have less than a year. He was terrified of entering Michael's life, only to disappear again. So he wrote one final letter, but he never mailed it. Daniel now had a name, an address, and a choice his father had been unable to make. His mother told him to send the message. Daniel kept it short. Robert Mercer had died. He had left something that belonged to Michael. The reply came the next morning. "I think you have the wrong person." Daniel sent the complete photograph. There was no response for 6 hours. Then Michael called. He was 52. His mother had died 12 years earlier. She had always told him the same story. His biological father left before he was born, never wrote, and never tried to find them. Michael had grown up believing he had been rejected. Daniel told him about the safe, the letters, the notebook, and the investigators. Michael said nothing. Then he asked, "Did he know my birthday?" Daniel opened the notebook to the pages filled with April 14th. "Yes," he said. He remembered everyone. Michael took a breath. Then he asked the question Daniel could not answer. "Why didn't my mother tell me?" They met the following weekend at Robert's house. Michael arrived alone. For several seconds, the two men stood facing each other. The resemblance was immediate. The same eyes, the same narrow smile, even the same nervous habit with their hands. Daniel led him into the garage. Michael examined every returned letter and every page of the notebook. Then Daniel handed him the wooden car. The wrapping cracked as Michael opened it. He read the label again. For Michael's 3rd birthday. The gift had been waiting for him for almost 50 years. Finally, Daniel gave him Robert's last letter. Michael read it in silence. Robert did not blame Elaine. He admitted he should have fought harder. He apologized for every birthday he missed, and every year Michael believed he had been forgotten. Near the end, Robert wrote, "I rehearsed what I would say to you for nearly 50 years. Every version began with an apology, and none of them felt large enough." Then came the final line. "I missed every birthday, but I never forgot a single one." Michael lowered the page. For a long time, he said nothing. Then he looked at the open safe. "I spent my whole life thinking I meant nothing to him." Daniel placed the notebook beside him. You were the one thing he could never let go. Michael stayed until sunset. Daniel's mother showed him family albums. Michael shared photographs of his children and grandchildren. The brothers discovered they had both worked with their hands, both hated flying, and both made the same terrible joke whenever someone asked for directions. Nothing could return the years they had lost. But the truth changed what those years meant. Michael had not been forgotten, and Daniel had not uncovered a betrayal. He had discovered that his family was larger than anyone knew. Before leaving, Michael asked Daniel's mother to take a photograph. The two brothers stood beside the open safe. For the first time, Michael was part of a family picture connected to Robert. No one was missing. No one had been cut away. A week later, Daniel printed 2 copies. He mailed one to Michael. The other, he placed inside the safe beside Robert's final letter. Then he turned the photograph over. Nearly 50 years earlier, Robert had written 2 words on the back of the original picture. "Find him." Daniel picked up a pen and wrote 2 new ones. "Found him."